Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I just saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Went with the whole family. Didn't really know what to expect going into it. I knew that the critical reception was not really stellar. I did kind of take a peek at Rotten Tomatoes before I saw it. Again, that should, in my opinion, never be a barometer for whether or not you see a movie. If you see a movie that you have an interest in, you owe it to that film, I think, to go and check it out. And because it's Ghostbusters, I was going to go see it. Anytime there's a new Ghostbusters movie, I'm all in on that. I'm going to check it out. Our whole family really enjoyed Afterlife a lot. And so I wouldn't necessarily that I had, really high hopes for this, but from what I'd seen with the previews in terms of incorporating the old cast into it, them probably playing a larger role, which they do. And this is going to be a spoiler-free review. Not going to give away anything here. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on the direction this has taken and whether or not I think it's worth your time and effort to go check it out. So to keep things kind of short and sweet, yes, I actually really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. Again, because a little bit I got sucked into the trap of, well, it seems like people aren't loving this one quite as much as they did Afterlife, but maybe some fans still find some things there that they like. And I have to say, at my local Regal theater, and I don't think this is as cool as what you get at the AMC theaters that are also kind of near me, but it's still a solid 30-minute drive. This is a little bit closer. You get you can buy I should say, the Ghost Trap popcorn bucket. It pops open, and the awesome thing with this, one, is that it lights up, but also this is perfect for my Ghostbusters Blu-ray storage. I'm going to put the disc right in here, put it on my shelf. Awesome. Totally worth the $25 investment in my mind. So in terms of the story of this film, it basically picks up after Afterlife. Obviously, they've become established. Gruberson and the Egon family have become established in New York City in the firehouse with a ghost busting business. It's not going super great, but they're trying to do what they can. But this is where the old cast starts to sort of filter back in, right? And it feels, I think, organic in the way that they do incorporate them, especially Walter Peck, right, who now, and this is a minor spoiler, you kind of picked this out from the trailer, so apologies if this ruins anything, but he is now the mayor of New York, so obviously he still has a bone to pick with the Ghostbusters, and so that dynamic that we get from the original films is here too. But there are moments in this movie where they're acknowledging things from the first two movies especially, but they're there in New York, and Ray still runs Ray Occult's books. He still sort of does this thing where he's researching ancient artifacts, and he's still got his, borderline conspiracy theories, but his ideas about things and sort of spiritual manifestations and all of that. But somebody comes and drops off an orb in his shop that then leads to a string of interesting occurrences that then results in the arrival of kind of the big bad guy, the big villain for this movie. And I will say, I think one of the major strengths of this movie is that the villain is awesome. A really great villain. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but when I think about, the original Ghostbusters, I think about Ghostbusters 2 with Vigo. I feel like this is the first movie we've gotten in a while that has its own true, really kind of standout villain in the way that we saw in the first two movies, where it's meant to be a little bit scary, a little bit overwhelming. And in fact, there was one moment in the movie, a couple moments, where I turned to my 9-year-old, almost 10, and kind of looked at him, and he was a little squeamish in the seat. Not scared, I don't think, but I could tell he was kind of recoiling a little bit. And one thing I appreciate about this movie is that, like the original two films, and even like Afterlife, it treats the kind of psychokinetic, spiritual side of things with a little bit of respect, right? I mean, Ghostbusters has always been a comedy. I mean, I think a comedy before anything else. But one thing I always loved about the original movies is that they kind of give the spectral side of things their due diligence. That is the case here as well. And I think that Dan Aykroyd is one of the standout pieces of this whole experience. You can tell that he's just really having a great time getting back into that role of Ray Stantz. He loves this franchise. He loves what its possibilities are. And you can tell that he's all in on this story. He's invested in it. And, I've seen some people say that he's kind of the quote-unquote heart and soul of the movie. I don't know that I would go that far, but he really does kind of propel things forward. And there's almost like a childlike glee to just his performance. He's really loving it, and you can tell it. In terms of the original cast, Zeddemore also plays a big role, and you sort of got a glimpse of that closer toward the end of Afterlife. That's further kind of developed here. Venkman is in it, and if I did have one criticism about the movie, I just wish Venkman, Bill Murray, had been in it just a little bit more. I'm not going to get too spoilery there, but he's in it enough, and Venkman does Venkman things, and it's great. And I think the thing is, every time he's on screen, I just couldn't help but smile. I mean, it's just one of those things where he just sort of slips easily back into that role. But I will say, too, I think the new cast does a great job. McKenna Grace, Paul Rudd, everybody, they're awesome in it. You can tell that the filmmakers believe in them and being able to carry this franchise forward. And I do hope they make another movie. I know that the reception for this one maybe hasn't been initially what they were hoping for, but our whole family had a great time. And I'll tell you, with a movie like this, one of the ways that I judge how well or not that it's working is I can turn to my 13-year-old and my almost 10-year-old and look, and they are just smiling. They're invested in it. My 10-year-old was dancing to the Ghostbusters theme when it came on in the movie. At the end, I asked him what he thought about it. I got 2 thumbs up. My 13-year-old said, "Oh, I said 9 out of 10. I loved it." I'm not going to put a number score on it, but I will say I enjoyed it. Could there have been a little more comedy in it? Actually, no. I think the comedy is pretty good that we get here. I think it works mostly well, but I think comedy in the form of having some of those riffs and things that so, I think, clearly defined, obviously, the first 2 movies, having more of that would have been nice, but I think this has got a nice plot, and I think, like Afterlife, this is a movie about family, and I think it kind of takes that a step further here and carries on some of the themes that were in Afterlife to good effect. So, when you kind of look at it from sort of a tally marks perspective, you've got a great villain here, I think, that sort of carries on the tradition of the first 2 movies especially. You do have some solid comedy. You've got the introduction of some new lore that I think works really well. And you can tell that everybody's just having a good time with this. So honestly, I kind of look at the critical reception, and it's interesting to me because I don't really know what people don't love about it. Yes, there's a lot happening. There may be some times where the pacing sags a little bit, but overall, I thought the story worked well. I thought the way things resolved made sense. And I like that they kind of broached, in some way, some new ground with the movie itself and with sort of the story of Ghostbusters and, again, sort of the lore and mythos behind that. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I think if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you're going to find a lot to like here. I would definitely recommend checking it out in a theater. I would also recommend the Ghost Trap popcorn bucket if you can spring for that. It was $25 for the one that I got, but I'm going to get good use out of it as media storage for my Ghostbusters Blu-ray. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. If you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, thanks so much for watching.